During the WNBA this season, I feel like we sort of had one of those particular growing pains where it's like some of the people that are coming in and watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like maybe they're there for a weird reason. And now they've found sort of maybe one player to hyper fixate on that they feel stands at odds with what a WNBA player is in their minds. And they passionately love that player in a way that actually just feels like it's hate being disguised as love that they want to have against the rest of the league. And we sort of had this moment where the rest of the fans had to go like, you paid the same money for your ticket and you being here is also helpful to the sport. And that's a really difficult thing to do. They had no sort of reverence for the fact that like, buddy, this conversation's been going on without you for years and years and years. And now you come in here and just think that you can, because you love this one.
Sabor just laid her strategy bare. And honestly, it's embarrassing. Her latest podcast episode leaves no room for doubt. She's building Team USA around Paige Bueckers, while Caitlin Clark gets shoved to the sidelines. The episode's title says it all. The visuals make it crystal clear, and the conversation itself confirms it. When you deliberately sideline the league's biggest star, that's not an accident. It's a conscious choice. And right now, that choice is backfiring in spectacular fashion. The real question is this: how long can someone ignore the player who practically saved your league before the public finally notices?
From a podcast with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe, and the guest was Katie Nolan, and they were talking about the growing pains in the WNBA, and they decided to put out this clip on their Twitter to promote their new episode with Katie Nolan. So this was a choice for the podcast to use that clip to promote their episode. This is not like someone was clipping it out and it went viral. And I actually went to the main episode to kind of watch that clip in its entirety because I just wanted to make sure that nothing was taken out of context. And to be totally honest with you guys, watching the whole clip made the clip that they put on social media that much worse.
Let's break down what just went down on the Sue Bird podcast, because this situation has officially gone from questionable to downright ridiculous. The episode kicked off with a title that says it all. Team USA 2028 is all about Paige Bueckers and a handful of young players. Not Caitlin Clark, not the true future of USA basketball, not even the next generation taking the lead. Instead, Paige Bueckers' name is front and center, while everyone else is grouped into a generic young stars category. It couldn't be more obvious.
During the WNBA this season, I feel like we sort of had one of those particular growing pains where it's like some of the people that are coming in and watching the sport and are fans of the sport feel like maybe they're there for a weird reason. And now they've found sort of maybe one player to hyper fixate on that they feel stands at odds with what a WNBA player is in their minds. And they passionately love that player in a way that actually just feels like it's hate being disguised as love that they want to have against the rest of the league. And we sort of had this moment where the rest of the fans had to go like, you paid the same money for your ticket and you being here is also helpful to the sport. And that's a really difficult thing to do. They had no sort of reverence for the fact that like, buddy, this conversation's been going on without you for years and years and years. And now you come in here and just think that you can, because you love this one player, and this one player is very good. She's very, very good. And like, I would love to just openly love them. Those are the types of moments that as a women's sports fan, I like really bristle against, where I'm just like, I hate that we have to go through this, but we do have to go through this. This is the growth period.
But it gets even more ridiculous when you actually watch the episode. They show a graphic comparing the young intern versus the veterans in a scrimmage, and who's highlighted in the Rising Stars section? Paige Bueckers, Jackie Young, and Angel Reese. Notice anyone missing? Because I do. Caitlin Clark, the player who single-handedly transformed WNBA attendance, broke viewership records over and over, and turned casual fans into die-hard women's basketball followers, somehow doesn't make the cut. This isn't an oversight, it's a deliberate snub.
For a large group of people, mostly that exist online, it wasn't enough, like, love a player, love Caitlin, love whoever you want to love. But it was simultaneously, they had to then say that every player that ever came before.
The episode's quality was rough. Throughout the entire podcast, Sue Bird can't stop gushing over Paige Bueckers, practically crowning her the self-appointed captain of this squad. Sue praises how adorable she is, talks about breaking ties in scrimmages, and praises her competitiveness. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with Paige as a player. She's talented, shows potential, and comes across as a decent person, but here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. Last season, Paige recorded the 3rd lowest home game attendance in the league. You can't manufacture a star. You can't force fans to care. The audience decides where attention and money goes. And right now, they're not exactly lining up to watch Paige play. Sue Bird is trying to make Paige happen like she's some basketball version of Mean Girls. Stop trying to make fetch happen, Sue. It's not happening. Fans have already spoken. They know who they want to watch. When Caitlin Clark plays, arenas sell out. When her games air, ratings explode. Even when she's off the court, people follow her team just to stay connected to her journey. That is real star power. That is authentic influence. Yet somehow the WNBA establishment seems determined to shove their chosen narrative down our throats instead of recognizing reality. It's like walking into a restaurant where 45 of 50 tables ordered tacos, and the manager is desperately insisting the cheeseburger is the superior choice. Sir, the numbers don't lie. The audience has spoken, and they want tacos.
You called sports fandom a complex experience. I loved that so much. Do say more about that. What feels misunderstood or oversimplified or uncovered?
Yeah, I think like there's so many aspects of this that we could focus on. Like one of them is sports hate. Sports hate is so unique, I think, and it's also, I feel like, healthy in a world that's full of a lot of hate that's very unhealthy and very bad. I think in general, hate I try to shy away from, but you've got, we're humans, so you have to have all range of emotional experiences. And I think one of the safest places to put your hate is like, dude, I hate the fucking Yankees. I hate them so much. I hate them so much that while I'm doing my job and I meet a Yankee, I'm like, no, I don't want to know you. I absolutely hate you. It's based in nothing. If anything were to happen to that person, I wouldn't want them to suffer. But you're just like, it's safe hate is sports hate.
And then if they got traded to the Red Sox, you'd be like, I love you. I love them.
I'd go, give me a second. I'd go, I don't know, give me a second. But I also feel like in terms of, look, sports fans are men, women, non-binary. Anybody can be a sports fan. I think a lot of sports media caters to a specific male audience. And I also feel like that's a male audience that has not been told that their feelings are something that they can experience. And so I think a lot of the time, men don't even realize how much of an emotional experience being a sports fan is. And so that's kind of part of my thing, is I just want them to feel like, hey, the way that sports make you feel, we can talk through that. So it's just such a weird experience that people who don't love sports don't understand, but that I want to kind of pick apart.
Let's rewind a bit, because this isn't Sue Bird's first brush with dismissing Caitlin Clark and her fans. Just days before that, Paige Bueckers' Adoration Festival episode, Sue hosted a podcast where her guests went all in disparaging Clark's supporters. They painted her entire fan base as toxic, aggressive, and suspiciously motivated. And what did Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe do? Nothing. Just sat there smiling. Not a single word of pushback, not one, maybe we shouldn't generalize millions of people. Silence. That's what makes this so frustrating. Both Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe built their careers championing women's sports. They talk constantly about growing the game, attracting new fans, and bringing women's basketball into the mainstream. But the moment millions of new fans actually show up, suddenly they're dismissed, labeled as having the wrong reasons for watching. Let's unpack that. The guests claim new fans only care because they're obsessed with one player who doesn't fit the WNBA mold. Okay, what exactly is a WNBA athlete supposed to be? Because from where I'm standing, Caitlin Clark is exactly what the league needs. Talented, dedicated, marketable, and genuinely exciting to watch. Her popularity isn't a flaw, it's a solution, but apparently that's the problem. She's too successful, too influential, too magnetic. She draws fans who don't fit some arbitrary definition of a real WNBA supporter, and suddenly that's a crisis. The mental gymnastics here are wild. The same voices will blame Clark for everything negative, aggressive fan behavior, heightened media attention, any on-court incident, yet refuse to credit her for the positive, record-breaking attendance, massive TV deals, sold-out arenas, international recognition. Praising her achievements? Not an option. The cognitive dissonance is Olympic level. Let's look at the facts. Before Clark arrived, most WNBA teams outside of the Aces and Liberty struggled to fill 3,000 seats. That's not exaggeration, that's reality. The league was bleeding tens of millions annually, TV coverage was sparse, and the average sports fan couldn't name 5 WNBA players. It existed, sure, but culturally? Barely. Then Caitlin Clark enters, and everything changes. Google searches for WNBA content increase tenfold. Arenas sell out. Networks fight for broadcast rights. Merchandise flies off shelves. The league's visibility skyrockets. And yet, according to the podcast guest Sue Bird gave a platform to, the WNBA isn't culturally relevant anymore because political narratives shifted. That argument collapses under scrutiny. Viewership remains high. Attendance stays strong. Engagement is up. Fans watch games even when Clark isn't playing because she created a connection that pulled them into the sport. She's not just a player, she's the reason millions care about the WNBA at all. Fans came for Caitlin Clark, yes, but many came for the sport itself. That's literally the perfect scenario for growing the league. Yet, it gets absurd. On Sue Bird's podcast, a guest actually claimed that fans obsessed with Clark are expressing hatred disguised as affection. Wait, what? Millions of people buying her jersey, attending games, watching highlights, following her career, supporting her sponsors. They're secretly critics. That's nonsense. No one spends hours watching basketball out of hate. No one buys merchandise for a player they despise. No one travels across cities to see someone they can't tolerate. These fans are real. Their excitement is genuine. Their support is legitimate. Labeling all of that as hidden animosity isn't just offensive. It's strategically dumb for a league trying to expand. Here's the reality about large fan bases. Even a tiny fraction of problematic supporters looks massive. If 0.01% of Clark's fans are disruptive, that's still thousands of people online causing chaos. In a smaller fan base, 10% might be toxic, but that's just a handful. The numbers make Clark's huge fan base seem worse than it actually is. This isn't unique to her. Every major star deals with this. LeBron had toxic fans. Tom Brady had toxic fans. Taylor Swift has toxic fans. Popularity brings this territory. The podcast guest admitted receiving threats from multiple fan groups, including Clark's, Angel Reese's, and Liberty supporters. That's awful, and no one should endure that. But the conversation framed Clark's fans as uniquely problematic. That's bias. That's pushing an agenda. Call out toxicity equally, or don't call it out at all. And let's not forget, Sue Bird literally runs Team USA. She decides rosters, sets the tone, and shapes narratives. By giving a platform to someone labeling Clark's influence as a problem, titling episodes to highlight Paige Buchers, and erasing Clark from graphics and discussion, Sue isn't neutral. She's actively shaping a narrative to downplay the league's biggest star. Think about the timing. Clark has appeared on Sue's podcast multiple times. She gave up time during All-Star Weekend to participate, always professional and respectful. And how is she rewarded? By having her fan base disparaged, her influence criticized, and marketing campaigns built around Paige Buchers while Clark is ignored. That's not just unprofessional, it's personal. Even the young intern versus OG scrimmage story could have highlighted multiple young stars making an impact. Instead, Paige Buchers got named repeatedly, other athletes were lumped together, and Clark was completely erased, even though she was present at camp. The message is clear. Sue has decided who she thinks represents the future of USA basketball, and she's using every tool at her disposal to make that vision reality, regardless of fan opinion or performance stats. Here's the truth the WNBA establishment doesn't want to admit. They're intimidated by Clark. She's too influential, too popular, too independent. She drew fans who don't care about the league's social or political identity, and she did it without asking permission, without paying dues, without waiting her turn. Historically, rookies, especially guards, rode the bench while learning from veterans. Clark obliterated that expectation. She arrived and immediately became one of the league's best guards. She didn't defer, she dominated, and fans loved every second. That disruption of the established order is what really bothers people. The irony? She's doing it on a platform that exists only because Caitlin Clark helped expand the league's reach. If you see through this nonsense, smash that like button and subscribe for more unfiltered takes.